Well, welcome to Papa Bear's Peppers, and I'm Harold. And today I'm going to show you how I'm bringing an outside plant like one of these two inside. And it's basically an overwinter, but I'm going to be growing it under lights on my indoor grow. Now, the first method I'm going to use is a very simple method using a 3 parts to 1 hydrogen peroxide to water. Now, this is one way you can do it. And by no means is this the only 2 ways that you could do it. You could use an enzyme type based thing, or you can go ahead and use it the way that I'm going to. Now, hydrogen peroxide is a fairly cheap, inexpensive product and makes it very easy. I've got some unique plants here, this one being a chocolate BBG crossed with a reaper, and I can already tell by the calyx on these flowers that it's going to be true to form. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to saturate the soil with a 3-to-1 solution, and again that's 3-to-1 solution. Let me show you real quick what's going on right now. You'll see real quick the foaming going on in there. That's the hydrogen peroxide responding. Now, the great thing about hydrogen peroxide is that it creates oxygen and water. So when it breaks down inside the soil, it's not going to do any damage to it. So I'm going to be fine. And you pretty much saturate it down through. What I'm doing is saturating the soil because I want to kill any eggs, bugs, anything that's inside the soil. Now this is one way, and it's a way if you want to do it without disturbing the soil, it's a way. Now, the way that I highly recommend is the way that I'm going to do it. And I know it looks drastic, but it works, and it's a rule of thumb that you want to have good inside soil versus bringing outside soil in. When you bring an outside soil in, what ends up happening is the natural predators of aphids and mites and so forth are not apparent. They're not going to be there to protect your plant from being infested. So what ends up happening a lot of times is you end up having an infestation, and you'll look at the plant, you'll bring it in, and all of a sudden one day you'll have aphids all over it. You're like, how did that happen? I didn't have any outside. A, you didn't have the sun essentially burning the aphids off. You didn't have the natural predators, B, and C, you don't have any of the outdoor climate. It's now they're protected from any predators that they may have. So you either have to have a good IPM, integrated pest management, in which indoors I use a enzyme-based spray in the amazing Dr. Zymes. So that's one way to do it. Now I'll let you know too that both of these plants I fed yesterday with Nectar for the Gods, and today they're going to get a feeding again. There's 2 things I'm going to do here. First of all, I'm going to transfer. Let me go ahead and get this one out of the way and let it drain off. Okay, while that one's over there and resting, we're going to move on. And this is a gated jigsaw, and what I've noticed is that it's got really good shape. It's a very healthy young plant. I planted it late. I didn't have time to really develop it this year. So I'm going to go ahead and use it as part of my indoor grow. Now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you my full-on moving a plant from the outside in. And in this one, I will be removing the soil, and it's going to look drastic, folks. I'm not kidding. But the best way I can show you is to use one of my own plants as an example. Now, I'm going to be using neem oil as a dip, and right over here, I'll tell you right now, mark everything neem. Like this, my stirring stick says neem, the bucket says neem. And this is just a bucket the wife uses to throw dead ends from the flowers in, so I'm not too worried about it. Next, have a clean pot you're going to move it into. Now I'm just using a 1-gallon pot for this, just for the example of it. So this is a 1-gallon pot. Now I'm going to be going ahead and transferring this plant into my Nectar number 4 soil. It's a very clean soil. It's been cleaned. at the Nectar factory, and it's a great soil to use. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of that into my container here. And then I'm going to wet the soil down and get it prepared for the transplant. I'll go ahead and I'm just going to grab it by hand and I'm going to move it in. It's not that much that I'm going to need for this. So I want to make sure I have my soil ready for what I'm about to do here. Most folks would think that it looks pretty drastic what I'm going to do, but it works, folks, and it's a great way to make sure that you're not moving or transferring bugs to the inside of your growing operation. Now, consequently, Nectar number 4 soil is going to be the only soil that I'm going to use for my indoor grow. I should note that I've also sprayed this 3 or 4 times this week just to get it prepared for the underside of the leaves, doing a foliar nutrient spray. That video I had just done not too long ago, and you can follow that one to find out the nutrient mix. Very simple, but very effective. What that foliar spray does is prepares the plant for what we would consider to be shock. And lastly, I'm going to be putting in a little bit of the one shot. Now the one shot is a slow release, and then the foliar spray has already given it some of the nutrients that it needs. So what I have over here is my mix of neem oil, and I've got a tablespoon of the neem oil. You can do 1 to 2 tablespoons according to this mix in your bucket of neem in your water. So I have 1 tablespoon because this is a pretty clean soil. I'm not too worried about it, but I'm going to remove it all. So I take my plant out, my plant tag, so I still have it, and I'm going to lightly moisten my soil with. All right, we'll do that. I'm going to stir this up and get it nice and moist. And you can see I'm still getting a little bit out, so I'm going to mix a little bit more soil in. I want it to be good and damp for the transfer, but not super wet. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more soil. And when I squeeze, I should get a dropper, and that's just about what I want. So I'll give you an idea what my soil looks like here. And you can see this soil, it's damp. And when I squeeze it, I gotta squeeze it really good to get a little bit of moisture out of there. That's what you want your soil to be like during this transplant. Now the only difference between this is that you're going to be disturbing the roots. Now folks, the key to remember is this is really a mature plant. It's got flowers on it. Now if I was going to overwinter this, I would strip all of the flowers off of it and I would cut back some of the limbs. I personally don't take all of them off. I know that there is folks that will do that. I just don't prefer to when I overwinter a plant. I'm going to loosen up my root ball here. Just work it nice and easy, nice and slow. And look at that root ball, folks. This one's been feeding quite well. Tell you what, we might go to a larger pot on this one, just because it is so root bound. Now that, folks, is a plant that's ready to go. Look at that. Look at the roots on that. Now there is something that I could do if I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and get these roots going a little bit. Like this. I'm going to spread them out. Now watch what I do here, folks. Now this is a fairly clean soil. This is one of my own soils, and I know it is clean, but for the purposes of doing this video, we're going to go ahead and clean it off. So I have a filter on the water, and I'm going to go ahead, get my water going. And I'm going to start rinsing the root ball out. I'm not being really drastic with it, but I'm going to get all of the soil out of it. I know most folks are thinking, man, he is going to shock that plant. It'll get a little bit of shock, but remember what I did. I did preparatory work, some feeding, and I also did a foliar spray for the last couple days. So this one's ready to do this. You gotta, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the root ball and get all of the excess out of here. And I know it seems extreme, but I want to ensure that I'm not going to have a bug issue. Let's get this a little bit stronger. There we go. I'm washing all of the excess soil out of it. I'm trying to be as careful as I can with it, folks, but I got to hold it up here at the main stem. And get all, let me tilt it down just a little bit here. You can see what I'm doing here. And I'm really working that soil out of the root ball. Getting as much as I can out. Now I'm going to let you know right now, there's a very good chance I won't get all of the soil out of it, because it's pretty encased. But that's why you do the neem oil dip after this. And you leave it in there. You just leave it in there for a few minutes and let that neem oil work inside of your root ball. There's such a mass root ball in here that it's very dense. Look at the roots in there. That's what that nectar does to your plants. It really gets your roots strong. I have such a microbial food web in my soil that the roots are just feeding. Yep, still working on it. It's in a very extreme, and I know folks are like looking at it going, that is so extreme. The plant will be fine. This is a mature plant. This is not a seedling. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call this good for this one. I've gotten the majority of that oil out, or the soil out of the root ball. So now, we're going to do a little transplant. All right. So now what we're going to do, I'll bring you right over here. And I'm first going to go ahead, and this is the neem oil bath that it's going to get. Stir this up, stir it up good. And I'm basically going to dip the root ball in here. And I'm going to make sure that I have neem all over the root ball. This is going to help take care of any eggs, anything that's in the soil structure. I know, folks, it looks very drastic, but in the end, it's going to be a strong plant. I'm just going to let that sit there for a few minutes. Well, as you can see, I have my plant. It's inside of the neem oil mix, and I've just got the root ball soaking a little. And I've decided I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the pot on this one to the 3-gallon pot. And I'll just mix this in. And we'll see how close we are. Let me get my soil out of the way here. And now we're going to go ahead and start the planting. While that's working, that's killing all of any kind of aphid eggs or mite eggs or anything that might be in the soil. Root aphids, anything. And that's what I'm attempting to do. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put soil into my bucket. Get it ready to go. Alright, now what I've got next here is I've got some of my Nectar one-shot, and I'm going to go ahead and spread that down here in the hole just to give it that slow release nutrient in there. Now Nectar number 4 soil already has a lot of nutrients in it, but my Nectar one-shot is not going to hurt the plant. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring my plant out of the neem oil soak. And now I know that all of the bugs that are in there, if there are any, are dead. Now I'm working on basically a time constraint where I want to get it back into soil quickly. We got it based into there just like that. I'll grab some more of my Nectar number 4 soil here. Just like that. I got some more of my beautiful Nectar number 4 soil. And I'm going to stir up my nutrient mix here, because that's going to be used here very soon. I want you to notice one thing. When I did that, I didn't destroy the roots. I didn't beat the roots up. I simply rinsed them off. The roots are intact, and I never damaged the roots. So now we're back into the transplant. I'm going to put a little bit of water in here just so I can dampen my soil, get it ready for the transplant, get a little moisture in the soil. And I'm just mixing that soil and that moisture together. I'm going to pack around the root ball now. Till that root ball is completely gone. Got this nice pre-cleaned Nectar number 4 soil. And that's what I want. I want a nice clean soil for my plant to thrive in. It's got fresh nutrients in it. It has no bugs, and in fact they use a diatomaceous earth inside of the soil to make sure that if there's anything around that it kills them too. So I've got multiple layers of protection going on here, folks. Got that nice neem oil bath to kill any kind of root aphids I may have laying around in there. And now I come into it with this gorgeous Nectar number 4 soil. And I'm going to go ahead I'm going to pack it in. I like to pack it in a little bit with my knuckles. Don't have to push hard, but you do want to get the soil packed in around the root ball. You got to get that soil making contact with your roots. And if you notice, I'm out here on the rock. It's a nice shady rock. I don't want to do this in direct sunlight because you really will shock your plant then. So I come in and I've got my soil all mixed in, and I'm going to give it a little bit more of the nutrients just to give it a good feeding. I'm just going to let that run into it. Again, a very clean pot. There's actually a brand new pot that this one went into. I'm going to take this lower branch, this lower leaf off. I might even take this one off just to get them out of there and let it work on new foliage. It's going to be under my Spider Farmer SF 2000 light. It'll get plenty of light. Now you can see that settled in quite well. Last, I'm going to go ahead and put my Gator jigsaw tag back in it. Well, and there you go, folks. It's that easy with two different methods that we can do. This is my preferred method to do a complete root dip. Okay, here we are the day after transplant, and what I've got here is a foliar spray. It's in my bottle, and it's 1 tablespoon of Medusa's Magic and a tablespoon of the Athena's Aminas with a little bit of my Gaia Mania in there just to help it along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray to the underside of the leaves. What I'm doing is I'm feeding the plant while the roots are recovering, and this helps to reduce the amount of shock your plant goes through. And all I'm doing is spraying on the bottom side of all the leaves, and then I'm going to come across the top, just give it a quick over. While I'm in here, I'll spray my yellow carboruga seedling. This one has started not too long ago, so I want to go ahead and spray it, give it a feeding while I'm in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spray. I'll come over here and spray this one too. By doing this, you're still feeding the plant. The plant is still getting the nutrients it needs to thrive and survive. So, my plants are going to go through with minimal or no shock whatsoever. Well, folks, here we are on day 2 after the transplant. You can see there, the plant is not really showing any signs of shock. I've just got done doing a foliar spray again. Here's the other one that we brought in that I used the hydrogen peroxide soak, root soak on, and it's doing quite well. Keep an eye on it for any kind of bugs or whatever, and if I do have any, I'll use this right here, which is Amazing Dr. Zyme's. This is an enzyme spray that will kill the bugs. It basically chokes them out. So here we are, day 3. Also going on day 3, my little chocolate reaper. There's one there, and I got one popping up right there. Got some Moruga scorpion seeds from Jimmy Pickles I got on over here. Putting those in from Jim Morrow, Jimmy Pickles. I'm going to go ahead and start those. I found that the rock wool is really taking off fast, so I'm using rock wool on this indoor grow just to get them started. Nice and sterile, but I get really good action. There's another yellow carboruga over there, one of Tony Sherwood's creations. Right there you'll see that little chocolate reaper. Everything's coming along. We're getting there, folks. But just wanted to show you day 2. Well, here we are. We're coming in for day 3, and I thought I'd show you after the transplant how the plant looks. Not too bad. Show you how the plant looks. It doesn't look too bad. You look at it and see that there's the other one that I used the hydrogen peroxide soak on, and they both are looking quite healthy. You can see the plant didn't die. It's not in shock. It's recovered quite nicely. Still got it, dropped a few flowers, but no big deal. I'm not that concerned with it. Here is my yellow carboruga. It's really taken off under this light. Really little quick show there. That's the Spider Farmer SF2000 running. With this one over here, we did a 3 parts to 1 hydrogen peroxides, and we did a root soak down through the soil. And you've seen how that really boiled up, and that's down there. It's going to kill those bugs, as well as provide oxygen at the root zone, and it's going to go ahead and basically dissolve and turn into water. We went ahead and made our neem oil water mix for our dip bath with just our regular neem oil. After we cleaned it, I went ahead and fed it with my one shot into the hole just to give it some long lasting. And remember, we're using Nectar number 4 soil for our indoor grow because it's already got those clean properties. I don't have to worry about it being infested with any kind of bugs. It's made for indoor growing, folks. It's the way to go. So that's how I bring my outside plants indoors. Now, I wanted you to see if I was going to overwinter these, I would take my shears and I would cut this down drastically. I would leave very little left but a few leaves so it could start regrowing. However, like a lot of people, I want to grow year round, so you can come in here and you can trim some of these leaves back that you have on there, the big feeder leaves. Take them out of there just in case there is anything going on with them. Just take it right out. And I'm taking this one up a little bit high right here, but it's going to have all these leaves to work with and it'll be fine, folks. And remember, I fed this yesterday with the Nectar nutrients, and I also have been foliar spraying for a few days, so this was ready to go, folks. I made sure it had nutrients before I even did it. Same with this one. It's been fed. It's also had the foliar spray going on, so these plants were ready for this, and it's going to really minimize the shock. I expect it to be a day or two, but it should bounce right back. I hope you like this episode on overwintering or moving your plants indoors. I do have a video that I did on overwintering years ago, but this is a little more in depth and it's up to date with what I'm doing now. Well, this is Harold with Papa Bear's Peppers. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Indoor Growing, and you all have a great day and keep growing.